All right, so here is an update on our floor project. This is part 2 on our project. I left off in the last video, we were going over the big grinder that we used and the pads and like all that. So we've since done all the edging. And so I wanted to show you, I bought these on Amazon, it's a pack. They're for angle grinders. They Velcro on, they're diamond, you see this one's kind of worn, diamond polishing pads. We have an angle grinder, but we don't have a variable speed one. And for these, because they Velcro attach, you have to have a low speed available to you. So you need a variable speed grinder. So because we didn't have one, because they turned into Frisbees if they spin too fast, and angle grinders spin, normal angle grinders that don't have variable speed spin too fast for these discs. So we bought this, which was like the cheap cop-out. This was like a $25 buffer, so it's like for detailing cars or boats or whatever. And then the attachment is a universal attachment. That pad on it came with these pads, not with the buffer. And that's what we used. And you know, it worked pretty well considering it's 25 bucks. So definitely recommend doing that as opposed to spending, you know, $200–300 on a variable speed angle grinder. So as far as our floor project goes here, we have done, you can kind of see it's shiny now. We put down the densifier and sealer. We use the Euclid diamond hard stuff. There was definitely a learning curve for using it. The instructions left a lot to interpretation, and we first did that dome over there, and we put down their recommended 200 to 250 square feet per gallon amount, and it was ridiculous. Like, there was so much material and it didn't soak in, and you're supposed to remove it all. And what we found was it gelled. You're supposed to leave it on for a minimum of 30 minutes and up to 60 minutes. And at that point, it turns into this like super slick gel that you have to remove, and it's super hard to remove it. We ended up with like footprints and like leftover material on it that created streaks and like all kinds of stuff that was basically went totally wrong. So then when we did these, I did some more research of reading bulletin boards and whatnot online, because there's not really a whole lot out there on how to put it on as a DIY person. And we got a method down just from like getting tidbits from other people that had used it on their garage floors and stuff. And so what we did was we put down way less. We just put down enough to make it wet with a garden sprayer. And then we used a big push broom and we worked it into the floor. We just kind of like moved the material around enough, or basically making it just wet, not coating it with any amount that was a lot. We ended up getting probably double the square footage out of the material that the company recommended. So I mean, like, we put down way less. Some of that may be the temperature that we're doing this in. Our air temperature in here is about 50, 55, but the floor is probably closer to like 45, the actual surface. So maybe it didn't soak in because of that. Maybe it didn't soak in because of our concrete being hard. I have no idea, but I just know that it was way too much material. And so we used a broom to scrub it in, and then just basically walked around with the sprayer and the broom and just kept it wet. Anytime it looked like it was soaking in a little bit, we would spray a little bit more, but we made sure that we did not have this thick coating that we did for the first dome that backfired on us. And then, for extra good measure, we, after the 30 minutes was definitely up for all the areas, we took some water and we splashed water around. And we used the broom just to move it around a little bit. We didn't scrub, but we moved the water around a little bit just to make sure the water sat on it. That way it didn't gel more, because that was one of our problems, was that like we waited the amount of time over there, but then getting it up took time. So the time that it took us to get it up meant that the gel had really, really gotten out of control for us, and we couldn't get it off. So we dumped water on everything, just kind of moved water around a little bit, and then we used a squeegee, and you can kind of see it over there. There's a wet vac, an old wet vac that I have that's like for houses, for doing your carpets and whatnot. But it worked great, and we just sucked up what was left, and then we took a microfiber mop and we just like erased all the little places we walked and the lines from the squeegee and the track marks from the vacuum, and just like kind of walked ourselves off. We did it in sections. We did, because these tie beams are here, we did each section up to a tie beam, each section up to a tie beam at a time. And so you can kind of see there's shine here. It's hard to tell because it's so dark in here with everything boarded up, but this has been run over by the grinder again. We rented it again. We were kind of hoping that we wouldn't have to do that. We thought that the sealer would create enough of a shine for us that we didn't want it to be super shiny, but we did want it to be, a little bit, so it doesn't look just like, somebody's garage. We ended up renting it again so that we could buff it, because the one thing about this material is they say that you can continue to buff it or polish it or whatever more. Plus, they say that the only way to get up the residue if you screw up like we did over there is to use a grinder to sand it off. We found that to be kind of not true. We basically did the same thing with the water and the vacuum and the broom. We dumped water, we used a broom, we moved the material around, we vacuumed it up with a little wet vac, and we got the majority of it off. All of the footprint, not all the footprints, but the majority of the white. It was covered in white powder, basically, that was stuck to the cement. It has since been run over by the grinder now with the 1500 grit in one direction. We still have the second direction to do, because otherwise you create like lines. You can kind of see the lines. These have been all done once. But it has, like, now that we've polished it with these 1500 grit, it's got like a sheen to it. It's hard to tell with the one light, but pretty happy with it. They said that it's not going to change the color of the cement. I have to disagree a little bit. Our cement was kind of a blue-gray, and now it has a slightly browner tinge to it since we put down the sealer. So it definitely changed the color a little bit. But it's okay. I think that there are worse things. Okay, so now that you've seen here where we've buffed it in one direction, we'll do the second direction once we've gotten it all in one direction. I'm going to turn the light around. So in here, the sealer has been put down, but I haven't run the buffer over it. So that was one of the reasons I'm doing the video now, so you can see the difference. So you can see there's no real shine to it. We expected the sealer aspect of the stuff to create some kind of shine. And, it doesn't have to be super shiny. I mean, it's very smooth because of all of our grinding and everything, but there's no sheen to it at all. So that's why we went and got the machine again, and we're going over it with the 1500. And it does actually create like a nice shine. We were trying to avoid using a top sealer, just because we don't want something that'll wear off. This does not wear off, and you don't have to prep. You can put more of it down and buff it back in again if you do seem to be getting some kind of wear, and we like that about it. Let's see, what else? The other reason is that it's completely non-toxic. Like, this stuff it's a chemical reaction with the calcium in the concrete, and it's VOC-free, like nothing. Like, it doesn't smell like anything. It smells like water, and like no odor at all when you put down this densifier sealer stuff. And I mean, it's basically, completely non-toxic. I think it's actually certified as for food grade surfaces. So, you know, that says a lot to me. And we didn't want to put any nasty stuff down in the house if we could help it. All right, so that's my update, and I guess I will do another one, a quick one, when it's completely done. But that's it for now.